Leo's Legion, the three down bros here, Roland, Arthur, and yours truly, Greg, looking at our BC Lions as we head into the Western semifinal. We're going to take a look at the week that was with the other teams ending the season and the week that's coming up. Will our Lions get through Saskatchewan, get through Winnipeg to make it to the dance? My high level thoughts is if that team can resemble the team that's behind me here, the last team that I remember started on the road with the odds stacked as much against them as possible to win that Grey Cup in '94 that was here in the Dome. What do you think, Arthur?
I think they have the capability to do it. They have the talent on the team to do it. The question is, do they have the belief? Do they have the belief behind Vernon Adams Jr. to challenge? I mean, or channel or conjure up their A game. I think their A game, they can go to Regina and take on Trevor Harris and beat him there. But there's a lot of things, right? They have to have that belief, and everyone's just got to do their role properly. And I think they can do it. Question is, will? Well, we'll see. We'll talk about that later. Roland, what do you think?
Yeah, I kind of think the same thing. There's absolutely um, a big possibility that we could win. We've shown last week what the team can do, and if we bring that same game to Saskatchewan, I think no problem. We can do that. The biggest thing is the heart and that intensity. And if we can do that, then I think we can win in Saskatchewan. So I have a lot of hope, and I'm excited. Uh, but first of all, if you're joining us tonight, welcome. Uh, really glad that we can chat again. Please feel free to use the chat to let us know your thoughts on anything that we say, whether you disagree or disagree, agree or disagree. And if you're watching this after the fact, like once the live stream is over, you can let us know in the comments as well. All right, so tonight's agenda, we've got a few things. We're going to talk about this week's game, starting with the Winnipeg game. I guess that was first, and then the Saskatchewan game. Since now we know our path to the Grey Cup is through Saskatchewan first, and then Winnipeg. So we'll talk about the Winnipeg game, the Saskatchewan game, talk a little bit about the Toronto Edmonton game, and then we'll go over the results of I guess the three down bros, our fantasy pool. So Arthur's going to be really happy. And then we'll end off with looking ahead to next week. What do we do to specifically in Saskatchewan next week? All right. So we'll start off with the Winnipeg game first. Your thoughts, Arthur?
Wow, I mean, Winnipeg, they were handed a victory. I saw that windstorm whip up and I saw all those leaves and I'm like, whoa, what's
Wow,
going on?
I know.
And I'm like, do you think they can take a timeout?
Did they have a
They
timeout
did
left?
take a timeout, right? They counted down.
Okay.
Um, and then you're like, did they take a time count? Because but then it pretty much, right when they punted, it calmed down. But you just don't know how long that wind was going to whip up. That was insane.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know if I like the play call. I know it's a mean nothing game for Montreal, right? You're
Yeah.
up you're up by 2 points, or and then you just run two plays inside zone. Whatever. I mean, come on. You might as well pass the ball. I mean, it's like second and long, and you just run it, and okay, well, we're just gonna punt it away. For Because you give Winnipeg at 10 seconds. I mean, even if they punted properly, all they needed was maybe a 35-yard pass, and then they're kind of in field goal range.
Yeah.
So, and you don't need to, it's no risk. It's not like your playoff positioning's online. So maybe Jason Moss is like, I'll just run it, whatever. I don't know. But hey, Winnipeg, you got to give them credit.
But the wind,
They
the wind only came up when they were third down, right?
they're in
The wind did,
formation. All of a sudden, this like the leaves are going. I'm like,
yeah.
what? And then I saw the punt, and I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. I said, okay, maybe it's like at least they got to get to 15 yards in 10 plays to kick a field goal. Nope, it's like right on the 40-yard line. And I'm like, or whatever.
Yeah,
Like, I'm like, you gotta be kidding me, man. This is like,
yeah. I
oh,
mean, what can you do, right? The first and second down when they had those short runs, there was no wind, right? So you would expect normally that you should be able to punt, far enough that it'll take the opponents out of field goal.
but I mean, second and long. You got to you just do the same play again. I mean, at least try to pass. I mean, like if you lose, no big deal, but at least you go down. Like I don't know.
Because there's always the chance of an interception, right? When you
They don't
get
have
to the
nothing
end.
to lose. They got nothing to lose. I mean, whether they win or lose, but the thing is, if you get a first down, the game's over, right? So you're just
Yeah,
gonna punt. Lucky can run. Like Lucky had a big run back, or just
yeah,
in that fourth quarter already.
yeah,
So and your defense is a little tired, right? Because you just had a 2 and out. So to me, I don't know. Again, it doesn't mean anything for Montreal. So
yeah,
they were like, whatever. Like just 2 runs. We're not going to get a receiver injured, or I don't know. It's just I thought they could have handled that better. But you know what? I wanted to see Roland and Greg. I wanted Winnipeg to lose that game. And then
yes.
Saskatchewan's like, all right, we can win. We win against Calgary. We get first, and I wanted Saskatchewan to lose. That's what I wanted. Then
Yeah,
both teams are like, oh man, we both could have got first. We both blew it, but then Winnipeg would crawl in, and then BC comes in, but oh well.
yeah.
Greg, what about that wind?
That
Have you
wind,
seen anything?
no, nothing like that. And I'm just like, I'm thinking, oh my Lord, there are football gods, and they're all in the back pocket of Mike O'Shea. No sooner do I say that, the announcer says the same thing. The football gods are smiling upon Winnipeg. So all I'm hoping is that all of Winnipeg's good fortunes that they had left for the rest of this season blew in on that wind and blew
All
right
the
out.
all the horseshoes, all their
All the
horseshoes.
horseshoes were those leaves blowing around. I'm getting metaphorical here, metaphysical, whatever, because the Lions don't have any of those leaves hope in heck of getting to the Grey Cup if Winnipeg gets that kind of luck. I don't know. That was just ridiculous. And I mean, if you're Montreal, you're like, what the, you're punter, you're lining up the punt, you're in your ends or whatever, but you're like, all of a sudden there's like a 200-mile-an-hour wind in your face out of
Yeah,
nowhere. It's like
And
Mike O'Shea got
swirling,
on
it's
his headphones.
swirling. Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
Mike O'Shea gets on the head and said, okay, can we get that win, please? And it shows up. I don't know, but I'm just hoping Winnipeg's good fortune blew on out of that stadium with that wind, swirled on up to the football heavens, and now Winnipeg is left with nothing. But I could not believe that whole entire game, how clean. I mean, yeah, Montreal's not going to come crazy, but I mean, you left Zach Collaros in that whole entire game. And I was hoping that Mike O'Shea's arrogance would just be his comeuppance that game. Not wishing anything bad on Zach, but just that you left your starter in there to just do whatever. And I was just hoping one of those calls would go, or one of his intuitions would just go the wrong way, but it didn't. It is what it is. Winnipeg is now waiting, and I'm hoping, not agreeing with you, Arthur, but I'm hoping that you're right, that they peak too soon, because I don't know what's left for the Lions to do, because I really don't know if their A game is going to get them through. But you know what? That Winnipeg game was just eerily lucky for me. Just eerily lucky.
yeah. So they got lucky at the end, but I guess the question is, how did they play? Right? I mean, they eked out a win, but how did they play during the game?
They didn't look that great to me. They looked fair but midland, fair to midland. Because Montreal was, I think, if I'm not mistaken, leading pretty much through that whole game. Hey, Arthur?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So
So
so that gives me again hope, right? Because uh, first place was on the line for them. They had a lot to play
they
for.
had to win because they didn't know what Saskatchewan's going to do yet because they're playing
Exactly.
first, right?
exactly. And they left it all the way to the end, and that lucky win, they could not have expected that. So they were already expecting to lose at that point. So 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 I think the fact that they won, I think doesn't change the fact that this was basically a loss for them. I think as a team, right? So going back to Arthur's point earlier about, I guess their psychological preparedness for going into the playoffs. I think this would have been a loss. Yeah, it was a lucky win, and then they have a bye week, and then they play the Western Finals.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to that game because I think they've got a big hole to climb out of, to get themselves ready for for the Western Final. Now let's talk about the Saskatchewan game because they're the ones that we're going to be playing next week. Um, I guess we'll start with you, Greg. What did you think of that game, and how prepared are they for the game
Well,
next week?
I'm hoping that all three quarterbacks play at the level that the quarterbacks that game played. Shea Patterson, I think his last name's Cone. I'm hoping that's the level of execution. I'm hoping that's the level of intensity their defense brings. Because really, Jake Mayer beat that defense. Jake Mayer sliced up that defense pretty good with
Wow.
I mean, we know Jake Mayer's not known for his long ball, but that long ball
Yes,
is what Jake Mayer
yes,
torched him with.
yeah,
Clark Barnes up until he tweaked his knee, I think it was on that weirdo slip. I mean, he was open. A lot of those Calgary receivers were open, and the Jake Mayer had all day with that Saskatchewan pass rush. He wasn't hurried that much. He moved a little bit around, moved the pocket around a little bit, and was able to buy enough time. So if the Lions, which is supposedly a better passing attack with a better quarterback, arguably with Arthur, marginally better receivers, because I mean those Saskatchewan receivers are all what, rookies to first years. They're pretty darn good this year.
Oh, well, they have some more veterans than that, but yeah, I like the receivers.
They're new receivers. Yeah. So I'm hoping that the Lions, if their plays can develop as quick as Calgary's did for going downfield, I like our chances in Saskatchewan, but I don't think Saskatchewan's going to execute that mediocre. Their intensity just seemed to fluctuate up and down. Their execution was iffy for me, but if they play like that, I like BC's chances against them. I don't think BC's going to get past them, but we'll leave that for later in the show. But they didn't look great against Calgary. I mean, Calgary actually had them for a good chunk of that game.
Greg,
Yes.
Roland Milligan did not play. Neither did Trevor Harris.
Well,
yeah.
that's
Just
what I'm
want to let
saying.
just want to let you know. I mean,
That's what I'm
those are
saying.
two big
Key
big
cogs. That's what I'm saying.
key cogs. So
I don't think
yeah,
the Lions are going to get past them, but if they play that way with those guys in there, that's what I'm saying. I hope Trevor Harris plays at the level Shea Patterson did. I hope the defense doesn't get any more intense than it did.
well,
That's
yeah.
what
I
I'm
mean,
hoping.
Milligan had an awesome year. Like
We had an
probably
incredible
going to
year.
be the MOP. Probably going to be an MOP, but I don't know. I mean, hopefully the one the one
That's
week
our key
off.
word for tonight's podcast. Hopefully.
Yeah. I mean,
Yes,
yeah. I mean, they needed to. Yeah, it was. Yeah, that wasn't the true Saskatchewan
No,
Roughriders.
I mean, because they knew
So
Winnipeg. They must have known Winnipeg won by the time their
yeah,
yeah,
they
games.
know.
Yeah.
They
that's
So
what
knew.
they saw. Like there was a clip where Corey Mace was watching the ending of that game. He like it's like okay, so we're not playing for anything. So yeah, they just didn't bother dressing.
yep,
Just
pull
didn't
Shea
bother playing
Patterson
some
out.
people.
Yeah.
Oh no,
So
Yeah,
they just took out like Trevor Harris didn't. I don't think saw the field. It didn't even make one pass.
no,
Milligan, I'm just checking again, did not play. I saw he was in his civvies, so he
yeah,
didn't even play.
and
Anyways, I didn't like analyze like who didn't play, and they rested some guys, and they're probably not showing anything anyways. So
yeah,
playing vanilla
they
defense.
they had a Harris like queued up to be the starter, and
Oh
then
yeah,
and then and then when Winnipeg won, then they switched. But yeah, Milligan wasn't there. I don't think AJ Ouellette was hurt, right? I think he was ready, but he didn't play either.
Yeah, AJ didn't play. Didn't get one carry. So they just they just
Yeah,
rested people.
yeah,
Well, hopefully they, winning begats winning and losing begats losing. So,
yeah,
if you let a losing culture get in, you let a game slip because it doesn't matter,
yeah,
maybe that's going to haunt you, hopefully. All right. You want to always
yeah,
win. That's what they say, right? You
yeah,
want to keep winning because that's your culture. You fight for everything. So hopefully that's what Lions have, right? Because they have a convincing win. That's
yes,
one of the keys, or one of the positives. The Lions, their last appearance on the field, it was a convincing win, and against maybe a team that didn't have anything really to fight for, but still a win is a win. It was convincing, so hopefully that puts them in good stead
yes,
for the Western semifinal.
yeah. All right. We're gonna talk about another game, but actually, before we do that, I forgot to show you guys. So for those watching, I'm not at home right now, so that's why we can't show your comments on the live stream. But we still do want to see your comments. So if you have any thoughts, let us know in the chat.
Yep,
But
Roland's so busy promoting us and the Three Down Bros abroad. Thank you, Roland.
yeah, I'm visiting my son here in London. But for my two bros, I got you guys this, and if you can see.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful.
Oh, shortbread again from Ube to oh, thank you, sir.
Yes. All right. So
Excellent.
I got that for you. All right. So next thing on the agenda is one more game this week.
Oh, for the
It's not a
viewers
game.
out there that are tuning in, Roland, I think they hopefully are figuring it out. The way to the Three Down Bros hearts is through our stomachs.
Yes, that's true. Absolutely. So this is the Toronto Edmonton game, and more specifically, how Edmonton won this game on a walk of rouge. Okay, so I think this is a very polarizing thought. So we're going to engage in some friendly banter for a while, and then we'll cap it off because I don't know if we'll get to an agreement. But Arthur, go first. What are your thoughts on this walk-off rouge
It's
in
not a
overtime?
gimmicky thing, stupid gimmicks. It's like, hey, you want to be taken seriously as a North American professional league? These kind of gimmicky things. I mean, it's not missed field goal for a single. That's like near the top of my list. The worst offending is Willen's favorite play is the onside kick, just the tap across the line of scrimmage, and you fall on it, and then you reset the downs.
We've,
So
we've got we've got the player who does that now. So
we do got the player, and if he does that against Winnipeg
And
and
win the
Winnipeg,
game?
and we win the game, I will still say it's a gimmick. No, I will still say it's a gimmick. But okay, no. So because it's an overtime. In a regulation game, fine. Kick it through the end zone. You get your single, but you start on the opposing 35-yard line. I mean, by default, and it's not like, because overtime it's kind of like a mini game. It has different rules. Well, kind of like you start on the 35. You score first. It's not really overtime. It's kind of like, tit for tat, right? So to me, it has to be at least a playable ball. And you got to down that person in the end zone. Now, we could change the rules and say, okay, I know Canadian Football League, if you punt it in the end zone, they can punt it out. If you're changing the rules in overtime, then change this rule. You punt it in the end zone, you can't punt it out, but you got to run it out. And if you can tackle that guy in the end zone for a point, you win the game. If you want to win by 1 point. That's football. Just using it, like punting it through the end zone? I don't know. I'm not a fan, but it's not the worst gimmicky thing in the CFL. So, but if you're trying to
All
sell
right.
it down south, people are just gonna laugh at the CFL. Sorry, it will.
All right. Arthur's made his thoughts clear. Greg, you wanna weigh in?
Oh no. Well,
All
um,
right.
again, I'm just trying to double check to see if that is a rugby rule, which is, what the Canadian game evolved from. And I wouldn't call it gimmicky, because gimmicky is something you came up with purposely to differentiate you from something else. And I think that
Yeah.
I'm just trying to check the facts here before I go any further. If that is a rugby rule, because again, this game to me evolved from
Yeah.
rugby. So again, I do agree if it is a regulation. I gotta agree with my brother Arthur here. If it is a regulation game, that's fine. That's like, to me, a shootout in soccer or hockey. It's just, one-on-one with the goalie. But football has been billed as the ultimate team game, whether it's north of the 49th or south of the 49th. It's the ultimate team sport. And to rest it on just a guy kicking it through the end zone and one guy, if he even gets a chance at it, to kick it back, that's putting the whole enchilada on one guy when it should be 12 guys. And so, yeah, I agree. It should be a playable ball in a playoff game. It should be a playable ball. That everybody's got an equal shot at earning that point. I mean, the punters that we've seen this year that have been coming from a rugby background, those balls are soaring and they're hanging up there forever. So yeah, a punt single when the other team doesn't have a chance. I'm kind of agreeing. I'm not going to call it a gimmick, but it's
Only in
probably not
overtime, you're saying. Only in overtime, right?
to have to play the
Yeah.
ball.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, and if it's a playoff game, if it's a regular season game that's in overtime, yeah, still. But if it's regulation, you kick it through, you kick
Oh,
it
you
through.
can't have different rules for the playoffs.
Then play it out, then play the ball out. But
What happens
yeah,
in overtime in the playoffs? They'll just keep going back and forth, right? Because there's no ties.
I do believe so.
I think so. Yeah. All right. So
All right, Roland.
my thoughts. I think you can. I'm going on the opposite. I think leave it as it is. It was perfectly fine, and I'll tell you why I think this way. So
Because
number
he's in
one,
the UK, he's defending rugby.
number I don't think it's gimmicky at all. It's part of the rules, right? It's part of the rules. From the very beginning, we've had this, right? So, but why is it? Why don't I think it makes a difference in overtime?
Well, they tweaked the overtime rules. That the overtime wasn't in the beginning. Just so you know.
Yeah, not
Yeah.
the overtime, but in the scoring rules. How to score, right? So the Rouge is a one way to score, right? And so in overtime, both teams starts on the 35-yard line. Toronto did too. So if they wanted to, uh, they could have kicked the Rouge right away and gotten 1 point. Of course, that's not a good strategy, but they could have, right? They could have kicked a field goal from the 35-yard line, and there's a good chance you can make a field goal on the 35-yard line. But what happened? What happened was they moved backwards, and I'm looking at the stats now. They moved backwards because they had a 15-yard penalty. A 15-yard penalty. They moved backwards. They had to. So then they moved up all the way to the 42-yard line, and that's where they tried to do the field goal, and they missed, and then it was ran out. So they got 0. I think in any overtime, the way the overtime rules are set is that if you go first and you get 0, you're probably going to lose, right? So, uh, Edmonton got the ball. They started on the 35-yard line. They could have kicked a field goal right there, but a field goal is a high probability on the 35-yard line. But what's a bigger probability from the 35-yard line? It's a Rouge. They didn't do the Rouge right away. They did. They tried to pass first. It was an incomplete, and then they kicked the Rouge. So it's a perfectly fine way of scoring, and I don't think we should change the scoring rules. Between regulation and overtime. It's not even a missed field goal because they were aiming to get a Rouge. There was another game way back. Louis Pasaglia, I think, won on a punt Rouge as well, and he
In
angled.
regulation. In
In
regulation.
regulation. Yeah.
In
So
regulation.
it's a perfectly fine way of scoring. That's part of our game. Whether or not the American audience likes it or not, I think to me is irrelevant. This is we're not catering to the U.S. audience. This is the Canadian football, and we have our own football. We have our own rules. In fact, the U.S. followed a lot of our rules, right? Like I was reading,
They won't follow that one. They
no,
won't follow that one.
but the 2-point conversion. I didn't realize the U.S. never had it until like the 1970s.
Nope, they only had it in
Up till-
college. That's it.
Yeah, up till the 70s, they didn't have a 2-point conversion, and they adopted it. So we don't, as a Canadian identity, as a Canadian football, to be honest, I'm not catering for the U.S. audience. This is part of our game, scoring on a rouge. So I think it's fine. Okay, quick counterpoint, Arthur, and then we'll move on.
I mean, I agree with you in regulation, right? It was part of our rules. Overtime was never part of our rules. If they made an amendment for the overtime.
Yeah.
So if we were talking about, I have no problem, punt rouge in regulation, I have no problems with. It's because you start on the 35. You get instant field position. Just part of the rules.
But so did the opponent. They started on the 35, but because
I'm just saying. To me, it's, I don't know. It has to be a playable call. There's comments, Roland. There's comments. There's 3 actually.
Wonderful. All right. Okay, let's take a look at the comments. Nathan says the rule should be changed to the receiving team has to at least concede the single point.
Yeah.
Forget kicks through the end zone, it should be no points. Same as hitting goalposts. Okay, so that's what Arthur's saying, and Greg agrees with that too. Blake says screw the Riders. All right, I think we might all agree on that one. Agree, should be playable. Todd S says also agree with Blake. Yeah, I think it's 100% unanimous on Blake's comment. We all agree. All right, so both, yeah, Todd and Nathan agrees with Arthur on it being playable. But I'll provide a counter there. It was being playable has never been in the Canadian rules. The rouge is a rouge. You kick it through the back of the end zone and you get a point. That's how it's always been. That's how the game was designed.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're talking about conception. The overtime's change. Like again, I have no problems. No problems in regulation. It's just overtime, and overtime has been changed, right? It's been changed to encourage more offense.
The mechanics has been changed, but the scoring should still remain the same.
Well, I mean, you're gifted field position. So your whole point on a rouge is you gain because you secured field position. Because you gained that field position, you should be potentially rewarded for at least a point.
But Toronto was also gifted that position, and they lost it.
So to me, you should not be able to win on a point in overtime. Like that, to me, is the overtime rules should be shifted, right? It should be shifted. Now, the NFL, they don't like the rule in the NFL rules. It's a coin toss. Whoever wins the toss, in CFL, the CFL, you win the toss, you want to go second. Yeah. Because you want to see how the first team goes, right?
Yeah, because the first team has the pressure to get a touchdown,
and then
they're under a lot of pressure to get a touchdown.
Yeah, and then if they get us, then it's a big advantage to win the coin toss and go second, because you're on 3-down football, they're on 2-down football. Yes. So there's massive advantages. To me, in the NFL, if you win the coin toss, you decide to go first. Now, you're the receiving team. If you score a touchdown right away, you win the game. That's it. End of story. Yeah. The other team doesn't get a chance. What do you mean doesn't make? They kick off. You take your. If you can march the whole field in overtime, then you win the game.
Yeah.
But and if you don't get a touchdown, you only get a field goal. They get a chance. Okay, so they get a chance. Now so to me, I like that. I'm not a great fan. I mean, basically, it comes down to a coin toss.
Well,
But
the
in the
NFL is better
CFL, there's
now.
sorry.
The NFL is better now because really, if you won that coin toss, you kick a field, it's over, and that to me is almost as
No. You win the coin toss, you have to score a touchdown to win.
Before the NFL changed their overtime rules, it was
Okay,
field goal won
yeah,
it for you. So I like what they did to change it to at least give
a touchdown.
And at least the field goal. Again, the other team didn't even get a shot at it, right?
Exactly,
which is like kicking it through the end zone. Now, I do agree with Arthur. At least both teams get a shot, and I did find the rule that rouge is based on the obscure rugby rule, but the man has to touch the ball down behind his own goal line willingly. And that we see, you take a knee in the CFL, you get a point. And the NFL likes that because you literally gave up. You didn't try to run it out. You gave up. So there you give up a point. But when it gets kicked 20 miles over your head, you don't even get a chance to even decide to even
He almost got it. It was like a couple of yards, just like he was like trying to knock it in and then kick it out or whatever, right? He just missed it.
See, that's my argument. I agree with conceding the single because you take a knee behind your own goal line because you gave it up. That's on you. You get penalized that point. But if you kick it through the end zone, don't even give me a chance to give up, then you didn't earn that point. Whereas I believe in conceding the single, but not being gifted the single. So, yeah, again, I got to agree. Love you, Ro, but I got to agree with the bro on the screen below me here. Because that kicking it without the other team getting a chance to decide if they want to give up that point or not doesn't work for me. But the Americans do like the conceding, like the kneeling down for a point.
Yeah. I still disagree because I think Toronto was given the same chances. They also started on the 35. They lost the coin toss. So because of that, they had more pressure, to try to get a touchdown. So, it's not equally balanced. I like the fact that, much better than the NFL where both teams' offense does get a chance to score.
But I did like that ruse because it was Toronto. So, I got to be honest. I mean, if it was the Lions, I'd be upset. But it's Toronto.
Both teams got a chance, but you're on your 35-yard line. I mean, it's not like at least in NFL, you kick off, like the receiving team will receive
the ball like a regular,
and it's like a regular game. And then the offense goes, they get a 3 and out, they kick off. So then the receiving team on the other team gets really good field possession, and they can just kick a field goal to win. So
because the other team got 0.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just the thing is, in the CFL, if you win the coin toss and you go second, it's a massive advantage. I don't know. There's got to be a way. I mean, it's a massive advantage. You shouldn't be able to win on a rouge.
Well, rest assured, if the CFL got the television coverage and the television revenue that the NFL teams get, and the CFL manages to tailor its game around TV scheduling like the NFL does, so it's neat and tidy, and it's all tied to TV revenue, then that rouge kicking it through or rules might change just because you have to abide by the almighty dollar, which is what drives the NFL.
Yeah.
As much as I hate to say it, I love the nuances. I'm not going to say gimmicks. I will say nuances of our game. And I love our game to the day I die, and I will love it more than the NFL. And I'm saying it here, the NFL, it's okay. But again, it's glitz, it's glam, it's TV. But I don't know. I like the Canadian game better as a game. But yeah, that rouge, that way to earn a rouge, not so hip on it.
Yeah, I hear you what you guys are saying, but I still think it's fine because Toronto could have scored a rouge from their 35. They couldn't even do that because
they won't. They're not going to score a rouge.
Of course, not going to do that because
no one would ever go for 1 point in overtime.
That would be stupid. But I'm saying that they had the same chance. They started on the 35-yard line, same as Edmonton. They took a 15-yard penalty, took them out of. They were still in field goal range, but the probability of making that field goal was a lot less because they were further away, and they missed it. So that loss was on them, not necessarily on Edmonton. That loss was on them. That's how I see it.
I want to see that 15-yard penalty. I want to see that 15-yard penalty.
Quick question: does my agreeing with you or Arthur depend on that shortbread making it back?
No. You still get the
Okay.
shortbread. This got your name on it.
I can be bought, you know.
Okay.
Greg.
Oh, the shallowness of it.
Shallow.
All right. Okay. Good
Passions run
discussion.
deep for certain things, Arthur. Come on.
We've got two. You've got two more votes on your side with our audience, at least the audience that's online right now. So, but if you're watching this after the live stream and you agree with me, let me know in the comments. If you agree with Arthur, that's fine. You don't. No.
You don't need to leave a comment.
No, you can leave a comment too.
But if you agree with Roland, you might get shortbread.
All right, let's move on to the next item on the agenda. It's the big. Actually, one more fun thing before we talk about next week's game. CFL fantasy. So the three of us have been playing CFL fantasy from the beginning, and the winner of this year's CFL fantasy, at least for the three of us, is Arthur with 2,187.3 points, and I followed next at 2,045.9. So I closed the gap a bit. For the longest time, you were ahead by over 100. So I closed it a little bit, and then closing out is Greg at 1,862. So just quickly, Arthur, what was your strategy for winning?
Well, the gap is still like 140-ish.
My math, my math is
It's
not
all good,
working.
man. It's
All right.
3:30 in the morning. I'm not gonna.
The time zone change. He's on euros.
Well, what put me behind the eight ball is I was betting on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Sorry, Blake. I was betting on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in my fantasy. So I was loading up on Caleros and Oliveira and all that stuff. And I had I think Lawler, and he got injured, and like I was getting guys and then they were getting injured. Like Oliveira got injured and Zach had a terrible start. So I was behind the eight ball. I was down like over 150 points to Roland and Greg. So I pivoted away from the Blue Bombers. So that's, and then
Blake.
I pivoted away from the Blue Bombers and then they started to win. So then I would, put them, I never put Zach back into my lineup, and as in my captain, definitely not. So, and I knew how Roland and Greg were going to vote and pick their teams. So, yeah. Well, you guys are going to pick the BC quarterbacks. So I just matched. I mean, and also they had good value, right? For a while, they had really good. And VA had a great start, and until he got injured, then Nathan had some good value from a fantasy perspective. And I just picked my guys outside of what you guys would normally pick, and that was it, pretty much. I couldn't let Roland stack on the Lions and have all the Lions and they go off crazy. Mind you, if the Lions got back to 400 yards of offense and scored a ton of points, I think Roland might be the winner of the fantasy, because Roland was stacking on the Lions and they just kept on not producing for the large part.
Yeah.
It could have been much different if the Lions played like games 2 through 6, like when VA was lighting everything up. If Roland did the all BC line, I think you did a couple of weeks. You had the all BC lineup, and you did really well.
The beginning of the season, I was doing really well. I did all BC for a few weeks. Both running backs, BC. but towards the second half of the season, I shifted to the second running back. I picked another team, but it was still all BC. Everything else. I was hoping that we would go back to like you said, how we played in the beginning. Then that would have brought me over the edge. But
I think the entire province hoped we went back to playing the beginning of the way we went 2 to 6.
Yeah.
I use stats as well. Which team was good against the run, bad against the run, good against the pass, bad against the pass. I looked at the matchups, look at the value of the players, and went that way. So,
yeah. Okay, good strategy. So we'll play again next year. Greg, did you have any thoughts on your strategy?
My strategy, I mean, hey, I take the first week that I was leading you guys and I missed 2 games, the first game, but after that, I had no strategy. It was with my gut. That's it. It was with my gut. And
Okay.
well, you know, the gut the gut didn't pan out too well. So
Yeah. Yeah. But actually, it shows you though. One of the things why I just picked BC whenever I can. The only times I didn't was during the bye weeks, right? Um, I wanted to kind of set a level where BC would be, and then see where you guys would land. So, choosing all BC is actually not too bad too, right? Because I'm only 140 behind you, so less than 10%. Right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay. Last item on the agenda: next week's game. Uh, what are your thoughts? We talked a little bit about how Saskatchewan and Winnipeg did this week, but specifically, let's talk about next week's game in Regina. Um, what do we need to do? And if you're with us online, let us know your thoughts too. I guess let's start with you, Greg.
they need to do everything that we have been asking them, like our keys to the game for the last half of this season. They need to play intense, complementary football for 65 minutes or more. This team has to do everything they can to just focus forward and win. And they got to be as nasty as this team that I've got pictured behind me here. They have to be nasty enough that they fight amongst themselves on the bus on the way over there because they're just so damn pissed off the way they've played all year. They got to go through the road. I remember when we went into Calgary in 94, we could not beat the Stamps all year long, and we beat them in the snow in their stadium. I mean, that was hopefully the football gods will smile upon the Lions and a wind will whip up at the dying seconds of the Saskatchewan game or snow or something, and we can pull off the improbable. My gut tells me we're not getting past that, the Western semi, the way the Lions are right now. But I like talking to Arthur earlier today. If by some chance they can conjure up 250 degrees of nasty and intensity, they might have a chance. But they have to play as mean as this team behind. The O line has to be as mean as the O line on the 94 squad to have a chance. And they have to
200?
play.
Is that 250 degrees Celsius or Fahrenheit there, Greg?
Kelvin. We're going
Kelvin.
Kelvin.
Oh my goodness.
Kelvin.
That's going to be hot, man.
Yeah. So I mean, the O line has to pancake every time. They've got to just be. They have to be nasty. And when adversity rears its ugly head, like it's gonna, you're playing in Saskatchewan. That place is going to be full. That place is going to be noisy. That place is going to be ugly. They've got to just drown all that out and play mean, nasty Lions football for 65 minutes or more.
You've been watching some hockey games? That's 65 minutes.
Sorry? Well, that's my own metaphor. But,
65 minutes is your typical non-playoff hockey game. That's the max it can go.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. But these guys have not played a 60-minute game since what? Vernon went down? So they've got to be willing to play, mentally focused to play beyond a game, because they got to put 60 minutes of complimentary football together, but they've got to back it up with that intensity that Roland's been asking for all year, and it's got to be nasty. It's got to be mean, nasty football.
Touchdown Pacific is a pretty good game, and then the next game in Montreal. But yeah, point taken. There's 7 losses in there that were not good. Yeah.
Your thoughts, Arthur?
Well, the O-line's the O-line. So, you can't... Although they had a good win against Montreal...
Last week, yes.
The last week. Their PFF ranking for the O-line was still dead last in the league. So, asking the O-line... Yeah, just for last week, the ranking.
Oh, just for last week. Okay.
Just for last week, I checked it and ugh. Yeah. So you can't. I mean, basically, you got to work with it, right? So they got to have a game plan to work with it. I doubt Saskatchewan's going to endlessly blitz because VA is eating that up, right?
Yeah.
They're going to throw different things at him all the time, And yeah, I mean, what do they need to do? They need to, again, what I mentioned in the beginning, right? Ultimately, the Lions need belief. You know, if it's Vernon Adams as their starting quarterback and then they get that belief, so be it, right? If that means that because of VAs behind center, that the rest of the team's going to pick it up and be more engaged, more disciplined, sure, let's go for it. It shouldn't be the case. There should be more leaders than just Vernon Adams on the field to command that respect, command others to do their jobs and execute at a high level. But they have to overcome that crowd. They have to overcome probably a team again in Saskatchewan that probably plays a little better technically. Right. So that means that their superstars, like the Lions playmakers, have to rise and make some unreal plays. It's going to be Vernon Adams, Justin McInnes, Hatcher, Hollins, stand back on offense, right? They're going to have to make a difference. Yeah. And the other guys just chip in. But it's going to come down to the Lions' best players being their best players and winning their matchups against the Saskatchewan guys, their opponents. On defense, they're going to have to bring their best game. And we'll see that's good enough because Harris is on a heater. And can the pass rush get to Harris to disrupt him? Because if he's got all day, he's going to pick us apart. And with our secondary, I think they're still developing synergy. Some newer guys there. It's maybe it's if you give Harris all that time, he's going to pick you apart.
But little developing synergy this time of year, though, don't you think?
Well, yeah, but that's just the way it is, right?
It is what it is. Yeah.
I mean they haven't built it yet, so we're hoping that 2 weeks of practices, they didn't go away this bye week, will give them that synergy. But again, the biggest thing is the belief. If Vernon Adams can give them that to them and they rally around their leader, maybe that's enough. I'm hoping that's enough.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think they do. I think they do have that belief in VA. I think we saw that last week. I think he's not just rallying. The word I would use is inspiring. So VA has inspired this team, and we saw the results last week. It wasn't a perfect game, and I think as you pointed out in the PFF stats, the O-line was still the O-line. But the good thing was that we've been calling for this is to adjust, and they made adjustments. VA got the ball out fast. There was one play that Paul LaPolice was in his video this week. He was breaking down where Stanback missed the guy. He went the wrong way. So there was an extra guy that Stanback missed, and yet VA still got the ball out. So there's a comment from Todd.
Yeah, there's a comment.
Todd asks, take away the short pass, make Harris hold on to the ball a little longer for the D line to get hits on Harris. Danger of giving up the deep ball until the hits start to rattle Harris. Yeah, I agree. And that's what, Arthur, you said too. We need to put pressure on D. Our D-line needs to put pressure. But I want to talk about the offense too. So I agree completely on the defense. The offense, I think, we saw them rise up, right? Last week, we saw McInnes making insane catches. Hatcher, again, he made a couple insane catches too, right? Hollins is playing a lot better. He's not back to what his potential was, but he was making a lot better plays. And we also saw guys like Everhart make plays, and so Qatar's going to be in for next week, right? So we got all of our top receivers. It's going to be hard for Saskatchewan to cover all of them if they're all playing at that level. So I think we've got a good chance. VA was completely zoned in, and so the noise definitely is a factor. but if we can carry that same focus and get him zoned in, I think the noise, that'll overcome the noise. So we have the ability to do that. So I'm very hopeful. On defense, yeah, we've got our weaknesses, but we saw last week that they were rallying to the ball, like the same way they did in Touchdown Pacific. So again, that belief and intensity, if they can show the same thing next week, I think we've got a good chance.
Yeah.
So it's not a given. They've got to fight it out. They've got to really win this. But I think we've got a chance. I think we've not just a
if the
chance, a
defense
good
tentative
chance.
too early, we could be in trouble. If they start tentative and stay tentative too long, we're in trouble.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what Todd is saying too, and that's what Arthur said too. We gotta apply pressure on Harris. Play bully ball, right? This Saskatchewan is the perfect place to play bully ball because that's how they play, and that's the way to take the crowd out too.
Are we
So
capable of bully ball though? We're capable of that finesse ball as games 2 to 6 show, but are we capable of bully ball? We've been asking that question. We were hoping that would be answered with Standback coming here, but I don't think we've shown bully ball yet.
well, Sandback showed it in Montreal
Well, yeah,
when
because he
we
had a
went to
chip on his
Montreal.
shoulder, but then he needs that
Yeah,
chip on his shoulder. Everybody needs that chip on their shoulder for this game.
exactly,
Like,
exactly.
I got a question for you guys though. You know how earlier Arthur talked about protecting the secondary, right? Because we had the new guys, the weakness of covering deep. So we were protecting against the deep ball. With the O line being as weak as it is, other than quick passes, is there a way to protect against the weakness of the O line? The way you
Yeah, I mean,
protect against the
uh,
weakness of covering the deep ball.
we have the running back picking up blitzes. We bring in an extra receiver. Kotoy is going to be back, so Kotoy is a pretty good blocking receiver. Yeah, those are the main ways, right? And getting the ball out quickly. So like I said in that example, right, that Paul Napoli showed, even when Standback missed his block, VA still got it out, and we got a pretty good yards on that play too.
Okay.
The problem, like BC is very good against like a cover zero blitz. Like there's no, it's just man on man. Everyone's man on man. BC, as long as the receivers are running better routes,
Yeah,
more determined, better cuts and that, crisp routes, and when VA is on, he will deliver the ball. And then it's up to the receiver to potentially, potentially a 50-50 ball. And then the receiver will get it. Now, the problem is, like with Montreal, they were just blitzing most of the time.
yeah,
Saskatchewan will mix it up. Corey Mace is going to mix this up, right?
yeah.
So he's going to give VA a whole bunch of different looks and try to confuse him. So it won't be as simple as, oh, they're blitzing, I'm going to throw it to my hot guy, and he can adjust in the air. And it was pretty obvious Toronto was blitzing. Like they weren't just really disguising it too much. So if they do a zone blitz and the line breaks down and they still have 7 in coverage and the receivers aren't running crisp routes, it's going to be a very long day for the Lions.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Was Corey Mace not the DC in Toronto when Vernon Adams had that 6 turnover game?
Yeah. Yeah. So
Does he look
again,
confused?
this is not good. But I mean,
Yeah.
but he has a chance. He has a chance.
Yeah, I agree, but I think we still have a chance, and we saw that our receivers can run crisp routes. Last week they did, right? So and the other thing that I saw too last week was that VA and the receivers were in sync, right? We saw like with Rourke, he and the receivers were not in sync many times. There was one play in particular. He threw the ball. I think it was Berryhill. He threw the ball and Berryhill wasn't even looking back. So Berryhill was still looking forward. He already threw the ball, and then when Berryhill turned back, the ball was right there. So that's being in sync with your receivers, right? So I'm hopeful given what we saw last week. On defense, I mean Matthew Betts was a beast last week. He even got a 15-yard roughing, unnecessary roughness call on him.
Objectionable conduct,
Oh,
which I'm still
objectionable
trying to
conduct.
figure
Yeah.
out what that was. He
He
must
he
have said something.
No,
no
I
he
think he ran into an O lineman. Kind of the play was kind of over. He kind of just running, and then the guy was in his way. He kind of just
yeah
play. But
he
he
was
was being
he was
held. He was being held quite a bit.
yeah
I think he was upset.
exactly yeah. So that's it's a little bit of passion, and hopefully that if that passion filters through the whole D line, then that's maybe what we need to get Harris off his game.
And Saskatchewan is a little undisciplined. They'll take their
Yeah.
15 yards and their misconduct fouls. So the Lions can get an early lead and cause some level of like frustration.
Yes.
The Riders can unravel, just like the Lions can unravel too. So the Riders can unravel. So hopefully the Lions can put doubt and fear into their heads.
Exactly.
It goes back to they have to play nasty bully ball. Then they have to make Saskatchewan fear them.
Well,
in
I
some
was
way.
gonna say to you guys, bully ball is not just on the running back. It's the
No,
mindset of the
it's
whole
the whole
offense,
team.
right?
The whole team.
Yeah, so
Exactly.
it's the
Whole
O
team.
line, it's the receivers blocking hard.
That's right.
Hey, I can't block on a bubble screen. None of that stuff,
Nope.
right? Like,
Nope.
so the Lions aren't built. I mean, even if their OC said that I'm not sure who he told, someone on the TSM paddle, or is it Farhan that hey, they're not potentially. I mean, it wasn't said to me, but potentially they don't run the many bubble screens because the Lions receivers don't block well, or not good enough, or whatever was said, because I didn't hear it. That's not bully ball, because
Nope.
so we need potentially a shift in the offseason to get people. Maybe Katoy and Mackey on the field at the same time will help with that.
Yes.
Well, yeah, Katoy is pure
so-
bully ball. I mean, when he makes the
Yeah.
catch, his yak yards are bully ball. His
Well,
blocking
it's
is
more
bully
just
ball,
the
right?
blocking as well, right? Like
Yeah.
if it's stand back or it's like a short pass, then you got other guys on your team running through people blocking, right? It's not one guy trying to make four guys miss,
Exactly,
right? That's
yeah.
not bully ball.
Nope.
It's more like, hey, we're being aggressive. And Greg, you said it many times. What happens when our ball carrier gets stood up? You see other offensive linemen go behind the ball carrier and push the pile. You
Yep.
see, do the Lions do that enough?
No, they're standing around, right? I mean, what
That's
better
bully
way?
ball.
If you're
That's
a
bully
receiver
ball.
and you've been held, you've been jammed, you've been whatever that's frustrating you, and now you get a chance to block that same guy on a bubble screen. Why would you not take that chance and knock him on his butt to let him know that you can't be pushed around? But I think we said it earlier, and I mean, I'm going to go into Arthur's realm here. Bully ball in football is equivalent to me if playoff level hockey. The Lions were designed for that finesse, high octane passing game, but they still, with the adjustment they built, I'm still not convinced they can play the dirty, knock them down, drag them out, punch you in the mouth all day long, bully ball. I don't think they're ready for that yet. And I don't think that's their mindset, but it has to be if they're going to get through these 2 rounds of playoffs.
Yeah.
There's a comment. Yeah.
From Nathan. It'll come down to McSimic and how willing he is to mix up his playbook. Screens, misdirections, QB rollouts, and
Like
not
he
just the
used to.
same we've seen all season. Yeah, we've been saying this, the last 2/3 of the season. Completely agree. I think the one positive I could say though is that with VA back in the game, we saw last week that there was a lot more variety. So VA is able to make quick reads and adjust on the fly. So McSimic might call certain plays, but VA has the ability to kind of adjust on the fly, much better than what we've seen with Nathan Rourke, at least for this year. Nathan Rourke from 2 years ago, is different, right, than what we saw from Nathan Rourke this year. So like what you guys are saying, it is what it is. Our players are who we have.
Yep.
Our style of play is the way it is. So the only thing that can change right now is the intensity and the belief, right? And when the guys are having fun, they will rise up, right?
But they
So I
have to
think,
make their own fun if it isn't going their way. They have
yeah.
to have the guts to change that momentum.
Yeah, so I think one of the big keys that it's not. I think we really need to score early and score early and get ahead.
Often.
Yeah, offensively, we tend to do better this way. It's not impossible if we don't, but it's a bigger hole if we're behind. So the way our team is set up, we need to score early and stay ahead. Then we can have fun, and then both sides of the ball can play well.
And Lions just don't seem to handle adversity well. Even they're
They
ahead,
have to.
they might let the team get back and surpass them. But if they get behind, then you get the unsportsmanlike penalties, you get the your frustration penalties, and that ugliness starts to come out a bit. So
And if that
hopefully
happens in this game, it's time to
So-
blow up this whole team. And we're gonna keep. I'm not gonna go into that, but if
No.
that happens here, that they can't overcome adversity in the playoffs, this ain't the right. These aren't the right people to have on this team.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Well,
hopefully we don't see that.
yeah. Hopefully we're not there yet. So let's focus on winning the game, and then if we don't win the game, then we can talk about that. But it, a lot of it hangs on VA, unfortunately. Like what Arthur said, right? We need to have more leaders, but a lot of it hangs on VA. I think if VA has an A game, I think we're going to win this. But if VA doesn't have an A game, then all bets are off. Because as VA goes, the
Ooh.
team goes. I think unfortunately, but that's how the team makeup is. He's their motivational leader. He's their inspirational leader. He's their spiritual leader, like on all fronts, right?
Yep.
So
He's
if,
their
if
executional leader,
if he's
operational
able to
leader.
focus, and be hot and be in the zone, then I think we'll win the game. But if he can't do that, then it's going to be tough.
If
So
he has that deer in the headlights look
Oh
early,
no.
then it's going to be a tough day. This team, if VA has that deer in the headlights look, then there has to be, like Arthur said, there's got to be somebody else on this team or a group on this team that seizes that and brings it back to refocus him to get that A game back.
Yeah, and hopefully, we've got some leaders, who are rising up, who can take that position. And if we get into a hole in this game, maybe and VA is not 100%, I'm hoping that those other leaders can rise up and take that role and not be completely dependent on VA, right? Because we got to win
And
this. This is a must-win
and
game.
Roland, you know who that is? It's
Who's
Nathan
that?
Rourke. It's Nathan Rourke.
I don't know if he
All
can do
the
that this year. I don't know if
If
he can do that this year.
VA has that deer in headlights look, how long or short is that leash? Like what Greg was saying, if VA has that look, he can't get anything done. He can't read the defense.
Yeah.
Nathan, they will pull VA and put in Nathan.
You think Campbell's going to do
Well,
that?
yeah.
Given all.
If VA has that deer in headlight look, so
Yeah.
when Greg says that, that means that VA's got a C- to D level game,
Yeah,
not an
we've
A
seen it.
game, but
We've seen
yeah,
it. And
you've seen
he
it.
himself knows. He himself knows when he's got happy feet. He says, right?
Yeah.
When he's got happy feet and he's not slowing down. Then
Or he goes like
then
this. He goes like this. Trust what you see, right? Trust what you see.
When he's trying to convince himself that
Trust what he see. Trust what he see versus trust whatever like he was thinking, right? But trust what you see. Trust what you see.
Yeah.
Then they would go to Nathan. And you know what? You never know. Because
Yeah.
all the pressure is now on VA, right?
Yeah.
Now Nathan has no pressure right now.
Yeah.
Like, right? Because this is VA's team, right? He's the starting quarterback. So Nathan, maybe he just needed that little reset. He could potentially come in with no pressure. Like, well, you can win the game, you're down. But hey, I'm just going to ball, right? I'm just going to go out and ball. Like, what else can I do, right? So you never know.
Yeah, I guess that's that's a good thing about having two high caliber quarterbacks. We always have the ability to go to the backup, and we know what they both are capable of, right?
But
So
your
hopefully it
point,
doesn't
yeah, go ahead. Go
hopefully it doesn't get there. Hopefully VA has an A game and he wins us the game. But if we get behind and he's losing focus, we have the ability to go to work, like you said.
I was going to piggyback on your point. The Lions can only win with MOP level quarterbacking.
Yeah.
We need that from one of our two guys.
Yeah.
And if VA can't get there, there's got to be a short leash, and we need Nathan, because that's really our only shot. Because if we're expecting our run game, our O-line, our defense to win us this game, we need the quarterback to win us this game.
Yeah.
Greg.
MOP level quarterbacking in spite of D, C minus D level, every other aspect of the game, correct? Every other unit playing mediocre to poor.
I think the receivers can have a B game and still win. The O-line, it is what it is.
I'm just saying, like, I just want to like MOP quarterbacking, great, but if the receivers ain't catching the ball that are put right here because they're down and their minds aren't there, if the O-line is just getting beat up and that quarterback's running for his life, but still putting the ball on the target, making the right read, but the other team, again, ultimate team sport. If nobody else is playing at an MOP level, but the quarterback, can we still win?
I mean, that's it all varying degrees, right? I mean, it also depends on how well Saskatchewan is playing as well.
Yeah.
Right. If they're playing at a high level, at their A level on defense, and only VA's playing an A level, and everyone else is kind of, cratering, then yeah, we're gonna lose. Yep.
But like you said, like Roland said, if he can inspire everybody to play up to that MOP level that he is, because that's what true leaders do, then
that's I think that's the key, right? Is the inspiration. Like if VA has a good game, he's going to inspire everyone on both sides of the ball to play up to that level. But if he's not having a good game, if he's getting happy feet and not reading, it's hard for him to inspire. So even if he wants to, if it's not making the reads, someone else has to step up and do that inspiration. So, back to Arthur's point, yeah, they can put Nathan in to take over, but can he inspire to the same level that VA can? I'm not sure if he can this year. That's why I still think if for whatever reason VA is off, someone else needs to inspire. We know that Mackie Hollins is kind of playing that role. In the locker room. So, maybe
it's going to be it has to be Stanback, right? Stanback's is the next vet who's won, right? Who's a winner last year.
Yeah. Yep.
Who can inspire, but you need the O-line. He needs the O-line to help him, right? Like
to get to that next level where he can truck somebody, where he's got
at least he can get into level 2, right? He can't like be contending with linemen getting in his way, right? He has to have a hole, and then he can start to bully the linebackers in the secondary. So
because he'll have a full head of steam if he gets through that first level. Yep, they say, you got to play like this team back here. This was a bully ball team back here.
Yeah, so everything's on the line. Like even on defense, right? When the defense, two games ago, our defense, scored almost as many points as our offense did. So, it's that type of intensity that we need to bring to the table. And these are all professionals. They need to be able to do that with or without VA's inspiration. We know that VA's inspiration, brought them to that level last game, but they need to figure out how to bring that level of play with or without VA's inspiration.
Well, right. It's that time, Roland. Prediction time.
Prediction. All right. So we passed our 1 hour time. So let's do this quick. Just a couple minutes each person prediction. Who wants to go first? Well, Greg, we know what your gut says. What's your prediction on the actual score?
Let me quote James Gall here. The best teams are made up of a bunch of nobodies who love everybody, serve anybody, and don't care about being a somebody. Lions play that way. The Lions win 23-16.
Oh,
If
I
they
love that
play
quote.
the way I just quoted.
I love that quote.
Like those guys behind me, a bunch of nobodies that kick the living crap out of anybody in a different color jersey for the common goal. 23-16 Lions, if they play
All right.
nasty.
Okay, great.
So
That's
I
my
guess
disclaimer.
you're predicting that they're going to play nasty then.
Yeah. I'm predicting they're going to play nasty because they're playing
All
for
right.
jobs too. It's payday.
True. Oh, for those online, let us know your predictions as well as we move on to Arthur's prediction.
Ooh,
Arthur's having a hard time.
indigestion.
Come on, you did well on the
I'm sensing
fantasy.
a
You should be able to do
20.
this.
Yeah, I'm sensing a 27-24 Lions win. That's my sense. It might be
Is that based
orange.
on analysis or based on heart?
It's a bit on orange-colored glasses, not rose-colored, but orange-colored glasses. And I just think that they're a different team with Vernon Adams, and that's we've seen it all year. So I think they can go into Saskatchewan and beat Saskatchewan. I think Saskatchewan has potentially peaked a bit early. They're a good team, and they're kind of on a roll, and they got some great playmakers. I think the Lions, if they have that belief, they can do it. And you know what? Vernon Adams is the quarterback.
And he's had
Let's
2
see what
weeks to work.
happens.
2 weeks of work
2
now
weeks to
versus
work.
the 1 week going into Montreal. The Montreal game.
They don't know who they didn't know who they're playing for 2 weeks, but now they'll know. But I mean, it was really just one of two teams, and most likely they're just refining their execution for this first week.
Yep.
Now they can refine a game plan for Saskatchewan. So, yeah, my gut is telling me a 27-4 win for the Lions.
27-24.
Lions. My head, analytical mind, you don't want me to say what.
And I'm with Arthur on that one. Right. I went with my heart.
The analytical mind, a home team in the playoffs, the Lions coming off a bye, and they sometimes get a little rusty.
Lackadaisical?
Rusty on a bye. So, but I will not let that speak because, the Lions are already the third place team. So, Roland, what do you think?
Yeah. I think Lions can win, and I think they will. I think they're prepped. They're prepped to win. I think they peaked late, really late. But last week's game, I think, was a turning point for their season. So I think VA can continue to rally the troops and inspire them. I think these 2 weeks where they're playing, practicing without taking a bye, I think that's going to build that intensity and build that connection between the players. So I'm going to say a little bit better than yours, 30-27. 30-27.
I've got the largest margin of victory here as a touchdown. You guys are just a field goal.
True.
That's right. Now, if it was my fantasy team, I'd be loading up on Riders. Just so you know. And
wow.
Riders and Argos, I'd be loading up on both of those teams. But that's if I'm doing my fantasy. So you guys know.
That's how Arthur goes. If we win, then he's happy. If we lose, then he's still happy because his fantasy does well.
Unfortunately, there's no money behind that, so it's I still be pretty sad. But no, I think VA can do it. I think VA can.
Well, he's got 2 weeks work, like he said. You spend that first week refining the execution and the connection and the compatibility with those receivers, and then now you got the game plan. But that's who I can't remember what comment you said, Ro. It's up to McSimic to come up with the ultimate game plan, get that arrogance and stubbornness out of the way to come up with a game plan that's going to work.
Yeah, that was Nathan's comment.
Nathan,
yeah.
All right. So it's going to be exciting. Let's can't wait for the game. All right, our time's up. Everyone, thanks for joining in, and thanks for your comments. If you're watching this after the fact, let us know in our comments as well what you think. Otherwise, we'll catch you during the game online on Twitter, and then next Sunday to talk about hopefully the next game against Winnipeg. All right, take care, everyone.
Safe flight home, Ro.
Okay.
Safe flight,
Thanks,
Roland.
Greg.
Go Lions.
Okay, take care. Go
Go
Lions.
Lions.
All right. Bye-bye.